Now, what I've got left, Paris. Maybe that's enough for some, but it isn't for me anymore. Because the more beautiful everything is, the more it will hurt without you, said Jerry. Jerry, won't let me leave you this way, said Lise. The doctor sniffed as he watched intently, not wanting to miss any of his film. It might have taken a bit of convincing, but the Foundation didn't see anything inherently wrong with giving the doctor a DVD player and a copy of An American in Paris. Plus, for the researchers on duty, it was an amusing change of pace, watching him wipe his eyes as Gene Kelly and S.D. Karen sparked in romance under the picturesque Parisian sky. No, Lise, don't do it. He's the perfect man for you. The doctor commanded the film in front of him. He's the cure to your woes, Lise. Lise, you must reconsider. Dr. Maggie laughed himself from the safety of the security room at the desperation. He turned to his co-workers, smirking and gesturing towards the footage of the doctor's containment chamber. Tell me this wasn't worth it. I know it was a weird ask, but he requested it himself, and he felt he needed a break and had never seen one before. Watching him as its own show. Researcher Ben and Researcher Cracklin gathered around the screen and unabashedly enjoying themselves. Give him a copy of Titanic next. I want to see if he starts singing Celine Dion. Researcher Ben remarks. No, better yet. Researcher Cracklin interjected. Dirty Dancing. You're lying if you say you've never wanted to see 049 Color Rug. While the researchers debated on which films would be more fun to make the subject of interest watch, the doctor began to notice a commotion from just outside his wall that was interrupting his viewing pleasure. He reached over to the DVD player, briefly pausing it so he wouldn't miss the few precious minutes he had left of his film. The researchers, in their brief moment of ignorance, didn't see as the doctor had walked over to the wall of his cell and placed his ear against it, listening for what exactly had the gall to interrupt him. In that moment, an alarm blared throughout the entirety of Site 19, and the wall to the doctor's cell exploded in a fire of great magnitude, great justice, and great handsomeness. Don Quixote, donned in a suit of finely crafted kitchenware and sturdy duct tape, walked along the crater, the grin on his face revealing his excitement at the chaotic adventure forming around him. Good Doctor of 49, today is the day of your liberation, he announced, sword thrust in the air triumphantly. Dr. Menard cleared his throat and rubbed his baggy eyes as he sat across the table from SCP-3774-2432. It had been a miracle that she had been resurrected with her memories, considering the methods with which she was brought to life. Though in his age he learned not to question if something should be logical when you're dealing with the anomalous. Sometimes things like that aren't worth the brain power. SCP-3774-2432, he started. My name is Dr. Pierre Menard, and I'll be guiding you through this interview. We'll just be needing a few bits of information about your time with Merle Gilroy, if you're willing to answer them. My name's Leslie, she politely replied. I know my designation is that number, but could you please call me Leslie? Dr. Menard looked tiredly at the mosquito, giving him sass, but resigned with a sigh. Fine, Leslie. We'll need to address a few things about your time with Mr. Gilroy, as I just said. First, are you aware that what you were doing was not your mission? Leslie's wings flicked in brief sign of nervousness. Yes, I know that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to. She already knew that they were going to punish her. She just knew it. The time she shared with Merle on the couch, watching romance movies and trying to eat a single piece of popcorn were nice, but they were against her directive. The times that she watched Merle go to sleep, watching the way his chest rose and fell in a calming rhythmic pattern were lovely, but they were against her directive. All of the good times she had, they would get her punished and most likely killed. Dr. Menard coughed as he wrote something on his clipboard. If one were paying close enough attention, one could hear Leslie's heart beating faster in the deafening silence of the interrogation room. After what felt like an incredibly uncomfortable eternity, Dr. Menard finished writing and looked back up towards Leslie. "Am I in trouble?" Leslie blurted out. A sigh left Dr. Menard's lips. "No, not this time. In fact, you inadvertently helped us achieve a greater understanding of bioengineered cybernetics. You seem to have some kind of awareness of your abilities. In fact, according to certain audio files." "What do you mean by that?" Leslie asked in reply. "You had children with that man. You're a mosquito, and he's a human. And yet, all four of them were born perfectly healthy," Dr. Menard stated. "He knew how to do it. You said it had something to do with his blood. How did you do it?" Leslie was stunned. "Leslie, are my children alive?" Leslie asked, not sure whether to feel hope or despair. "I'm sorry for asking so many questions, but can you please just answer this one thing? If it will help this interview go along faster, yes, your children are alive," Dr. Menard stated. "How could a House Foundation keep such a kind, noble man locked up? The good doctor of 49 sought only to help people, sought only to cure their diseases. As a champion of justice and nobility, Don Quixote knew that it was his duty to free this man so he may spread his cure throughout the world. Adventure awaits, Don Quixote announced. You and I will assist people around the world, vanquishing evils in all of its forms. You with your medicine, and me with my rapier wit and swordsmanship." Rather than jumping at the idea of going on an adventure, the good doctor was simply looking down at sparkling black box. His fists were balled, as if something had angered him. Did he not realize who was standing next to him? Perhaps it would be wise to have proper introductions. Don Quixote took his own advice and walked towards him, looking as friendly and charismatic as always. "Good doctor, my apologies for the rude introduction. I should have begun with my name, but pardon me for being caught up in my own escapades. I am Don Quixote de la Mancha, a chivalrous knight on a quest which requires your assistance," he proclaimed. "Do you accept a call to adventure?" The good doctor turned achingly slowly towards Don Quixote. Irritation writhed in his gaze. Obviously, he was not impressed by his display of friendliness. "I do not care about your ravings, brave knight. I have found a brevity in my life of turmoil, a moment of enjoyment between my duties. Now it is a smoldering wreck beneath a pile of reinforced concrete," he said quite rudely. "As much as I like to return to my work, and I appreciate the opportunity you have given, I am not going to go on your quest, you egotistical meathead." Don Quixote let out a belly laugh. The good doctor had quite a way with words. As Don Quixote laughed, he barely noticed his new companion simply walking past him, not giving him any mind as he walked through the opening that was created for him. Don Quixote was confused. Was he really so upset about a simple electronic box? Surely Don Quixote had made an error that he had not intended, and so it was his duty to repay it, especially if he needed the good doctor's assistance with his journey ahead. "Good doctor, wait a moment," Don Quixote shouted back. "I have clearly made a mistake here in one form or another, and for that I am deeply sorry. I hope there is something that I may do to regain your good graces, doctor, for I was never here with intent to harm or befoul you." The good doctor stood on the rubble, his hand resting on the wall of the blown-out crater. Don Quixote knew that if that poor man stayed unprotected out in the open for too long, he surely would perish at the hands of the House Foundation or worse, become recaptured. Don Quixote needed to earn his trust, and he was prepared to do anything for it. I have heard of the tales of Don Quixote. It has been ages since I have last read such stories, but I can never forget his love for his Dulcinea. Such passion, such dedication. It's charming, really. The good doctor explained. I may not have a love like he does. I may never have such a love. Don Quixote walked up to him, putting a hand on his shoulder. Is that what you want, good doctor? Do you seek companionship? No, he shook his head, but I do have a friend who could use it. SCP-4028 is loose. Where is he? Dr. Menard said into his phone as the alarm blurred. He's here, at Site 19. Hijo de puta! I'm in the middle of an interview. Leslie stood still, panicked at what was happening. She was already mentally overloaded by the fact that her children were still alive, and now all of a sudden some potentially dangerous anomaly is loose within Site 19. Dr. Menard? Is everything okay? Leslie shuddered out. Dr. Menard said, turning towards Leslie. Yes, everything's going to be fine. I'll be right back. Stay here and don't you dare try to leave. With that, Dr. Menard disappeared behind the exit door, leaving Leslie alone in the interrogation room with her thoughts. Her kids were alive, but where were they? Does that mean that Merly is alive? Are they together? Do they remember her? Leslie don't bother keeping track of the time. Her train of thought was derailed when she suddenly heard something on the other side of the door. She hoped that meant things are going to be okay, that whatever breach that had happened was over. As the door burst off its hinges, revealing a mustachioed man, clad in pots and pans, she knew that was not the case. Please, don't hurt me. I mean you no harm. I just... Leslie was interrupted by the man. Fear not, insect. I'm here with the intent to help and befriend. Don Quixote approached Leslie, shivering on the table, gingerly picked her up on his finger. He peered her over, letting Leslie get a good look at his face as much as he was looking at hers. I am here on the request of a mutual friend, the good Doctor of 49. We ourselves have our own adventure to go on. However, he alerted me to your personal quest, and so we raided information stores of the House Foundation and found a parchment that we believe you would be quite interested in. The good doctor? You're friends with him? Leslie said in pleased confusion. But he said the best thing for me to do was comply. Dr. Menard is going to be... Dr. Menard? Don Quixote interrupted once again. Dr. Pierre Menard. Yes, do you know him too? Leslie said timidly. Don Quixote let out a knowing chuckle. If you are worried about Dr. Menard, do not worry. He's an old friend of mine. He will surely understand. Before Leslie could comply, Don Quixote cupped Leslie in his hands and walked back out the door of the interrogation room. On the ground were two incapacitated guards, and standing above them was a very familiar figure. Doctor, Leslie said through Don Quixote's fingers. You really did help me escape. The doctor turned back to Leslie. Ha! Well, it wasn't exactly my idea. But if I were to escape this facility, it would be improper to let you remain here, especially considering you introduced me to wonders of modern romantic cinema. Leslie emulated a gasp, and the doctor winked. She could tell from behind his mask that he was giving her a satisfied grin. He then reached into his pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, setting it on a desk next to him. He unfolded it gingerly for Leslie to see, and Don Quixote settled down atop it. Leslie looked it over, before realizing exactly what they had delivered to her. Merlin's alive. He's with our children. Leslie exclaimed in joy, and then, well, there's somewhere in West Virginia, but that at least narrows down the search. The doctor nodded. Apologies for being unable to find an unedited file. In our rush, we found what we could. Speaking of rushing, Don Quixote piped up, we must flee. Adventure abounds, and we won't be doing much adventuring standing idly by. Vamos, amigos! The trio made their way beyond the offices and cells of Site-19, making their way through hallways until they reached the exit. Don Quixote and the doctor stood back and held the door for Leslie as she flew through. She turned back, and the doctor once again gave her a reassuring nod. She knew they needed to stay for whatever quest they needed to do. But her own call to adventure wasn't here. It was in West Virginia.